You just finished watching part of a video of an unscripted role play of a first session in craft. The portion you watched was a description of myself, the clinician, describing craft to a new client. Let's learn more about client experiences of learning craft. Although the majority of the research about craft has focused on the outcomes of craft, is it effective? There have also now been a couple of studies published in the last few years about the concerned significant other's experience of craft, qualitative studies. These studies tell us that many participants felt that they were met without any prejudice or sense of taboo or judgment. They felt that they could describe their situation and it gave them a sense of relief. Some participants said that they realized it had become easier to talk about difficult subjects and problems. Some CSOs mentioned how they found that their loved one had become more open when the CSO themselves switched to a more positive communication style. Most of the people who participated in craft reflected that doing so improved their quality of life and the relationship with the person with the substance use disorder, independently of whether their loved one entered treatment or not. Many participants felt that they had a better insight into addiction, and this was associated with improvements in understanding, improvements in coping, and stigma reduction for the relatives. Now, let me remind you again of some of the skills in craft, and then we're going to dig in a little deeper into one of them. The one that we're going to pay more attention to now is the positive communication procedure. I think it's one of the most important ones in craft. I'm going to teach you the main components of the positive communication procedure. I'm going to give you an example of how it might be used, and then you're going to give it a try. Why don't you pause this video and grab a piece of paper for yourself? Now, if you have your piece of paper, I want you to draw a line down the center of your paper, horizontally and vertically. Now you'll have 4 quadrants on your paper. In the top left corner of your paper, I want you to put the letter P for positive. In the box to the right on the top, in the corner, write the letter I for an I statement. In your bottom left square, put the letter U for an understanding statement. And in the bottom right square, put the letter S for shared responsibility. Now let me explain what each of these mean before we do an example together. The P is for making a positive statement. This is the opposite of a negative complaint. So if my complaint is, "You always arrive late," a positive statement would be, "Could we leave a little earlier so we can get there on time?" You might also think of this as stating what you would prefer. Your I statement is going to be a statement about the speaker and their own feelings. This is an I feel statement, and you should always be able to find an emotion word if you've made an I feel statement. An example of an I feel statement might be, "I feel really disappointed with how things worked out." Disappointed is the emotion word. The U stands for an understanding statement. This is a statement that the speaker makes expressing understanding towards another person. You don't want to just say, "I understand how you feel." Instead, you want to demonstrate your understanding. With understanding statements, you don't need to agree with the other person, and you don't need to approve of their behavior or their perspective in order to express understanding about it. An understanding statement might be to say, "I know to you that was not too much alcohol." Or, "I know you're frustrated with me that I'm not changing your curfew." Again, you don't have to agree. It's just an expression of understanding. Now to a tricky one, shared responsibility. It's very important in shared responsibility that the CSO doesn't feel pressured to take on blame for somebody else's behavior. Shared responsibility is not about finding out whose fault it is or blaming yourself for the behavior of other people. Shared responsibility is about finding your part in a bigger pattern or problem and taking responsibility for that part. I might take shared responsibility for the way I communicated something or for the mood that I was in, for example. Or I might take shared responsibility for participating in a pattern of behavior that I don't like either. Now, in our S box, we're actually going to have two S's. We're going to have a shared responsibility, and then we're going to have some kind of solution. The solution is often an offer for help, but it doesn't have to be. It can be an ask, a request of some kind, or a collaborative solution. The solution might sound like, would it be helpful if I gave you a ride to your first counseling appointment tomorrow? Or it could be an ask, would you be willing to sit down and look at this treatment center with me? The solution helps us to get to what's next. So now that you have an overview of the components of the positive communication model, let's see how we might use it. Here's an example of a concerned significant other. Paul has come to you for help. He's the father of two children, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. Paul's mother has been a heavy drinker most of his life. At the last family holiday, the family gathered at his mom's house to celebrate, maybe Easter. When they arrived, she'd clearly been drinking already. As the evening progressed, she drank more, and the evening devolved into mean comments and spilled food and yelling. Now, Paul's thinking about how that went, and he wants to make a plan for Mother's Day. He does want to see his mom, but he definitely does not want to spend another evening watching her drink, especially with the kids seeing it. So you're going to help Paul use positive communication to map out his conversation with her about Mother's Day plans. The positive communication procedure also gives us a few helpful reminders about good communication. We want Paul to be kind, but we also want him to be genuine and honest. It doesn't really matter if you pick the right or perfect words if they're not honest words. And lastly, we want to keep it brief. Try to have one sentence in each box.